Hi, everybody. So, I'm launching a new sub podcast on my YouTube channel. This one is going to be about video game mechanics that we're glad are no longer with us. I'm going to be working on the title slowly. With me today is Chicken Fillets. So, how are you doing today?
I am all right, my friend. Just another day in paradise, as you as you know. Thank you for having me on as your first guest on this new series of yours. It was going to be brilliant. I can already tell.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. So, here's something I've wanted to ask just for a while now. Why did you come up with Chicken Fillets as a username?
Okay, there is actually right. So I've held this name on YouTube for a long time. It's been my username. I used to have a different username on YouTube, but then folk were adding me on um, PlayStation Now because it was my gamer tag at the time. So I changed it just to Chicken Fillets out the blue because it was what I was having for my tea. I just literally changed it to that, and then once I started, I didn't kind of want to let go of the name, and I have thought about changing it, but I'm kind of like a year and a half deep into the channel now, so it's like I can't really do that.
Honestly, I think
So,
it's great because you could really use that as some really funny branding when you unlock that feature on YouTube.
yeah, well, that's the thing. I've kind of said to other people, that the chicken fillets name is one that kind of stands out compared to a lot of other channels because, well, most is folk talking about JRPGs or games, etc. Will have like gaming or whatever added onto their name, but at least my name does kind of stand out. Not saying other folks' ones do, but I don't know. I've just kind of leaned into it as such. So hey ho, yeah, that's the reason why.
I
Purely down to laziness as well, because I didn't want to change the name.
I definitely like it, and if I have to search up one of your videos for either, my purposes when I link to your videos either in cards or in the description, as you probably noticed I did with the Valkyria Chronicles is Dead video,
Yeah.
makes my life easier because I
Yeah,
just have to type
yeah.
in Chicken Fillets JRPGs and you're automatically at the top.
Fantastic. As you do, as you do.
Yep. So, well, what are some game mechanics that you're glad are kind of no longer with us?
So having to think about this one, um, there's a lot of mechanics in JRPGs which are still around, but the one that you don't really see that often, it does appear in games quite a lot. Well, I say quite a lot, not so often anymore, is save points. Now, what I mean by this is the likes of I'll link back to my ye old favorite of Final Fantasy VII and other Final Fantasies, where if you wanted to save your progress, etc., you needed to find a save point. Now that's fine and dandy when I was younger, when I had the time to just sit and get to a save point. But now being a lot older, being a parent and married, etc., and a full time job, it's getting to save points is now a harder task than it sounds. Um, Now, this is a good thing with a lot of modern games nowadays. We have sorry, we have auto save features. Now, I didn't realize how much of uh, a release, not release. I'm getting tongue tied because it's that good.
Well, that and you're
Auto
also
save,
shattered, as you told me before we
yeah.
started
I mean,
recording.
auto save is now, such a
It's standardized.
integral part in games now. Um, and also the likes of having, let's say, your Nintendo Switch having sleep mode as well, so you can just kind of come out the game and then go jump straight back into that point. It makes such a huge difference.
See,
Some
that's
games are
actually one of the reasons I loved Cold Steel 1 and 2 on the PlayStation Vita so much because those games, as you know, are absolutely they're marathons. There's no way around it.
absolutely,
They are
yeah,
marathons, and having the ability to just put my Vita into sleep mode when I needed a break from the game, it actually made digesting the game far easier.
yeah. And I mean, digressing from that a wee bit further, the likes of having save states, so being able to save at any point instead of having to get to a save point is another massive plus, because if you are a person who plays JRPGs, you will go for the autosave and then you'll still save just in case. I'm notorious for that. I'll get to, the autosave will ping up and then I'll still save a standard save file. But again, it's not having to find a save point or get to a certain point in a game before you can save. It makes life a lot easier for me. Not saying that they're bad things, but it makes my life easier not having to find a save point.
Oh, definitely. Also, have you noticed that games back then really did not respect our times? Also, the fact that here's something I've noticed, because we're both gamers of the same rough generation. You're a little bit older than me, but not by much. Have you noticed that gamers in our generation always do the save after the autosave? It's like we have some kind of built-in paranoia.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, like I'll give you a story with this, right? Um, Final Fantasy VII growing up, there is the Temple of the Ancients. Now, I recently did a collaboration with Retromania, and it was about the hardest JRPG bosses. Now, I actually picked the Demon Wall in this. Now, the Demon Wall is actually just a normal boss within the game. But for me growing up, that boss was a massive, massive
Ball
pain
ache.
in the arse, right? So I took me loads and loads and loads of attempts, and then I finally beat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is when I was still living with my parents and I was younger, and I completed the boss. And then my mom and dad were like, "Oh, we need to go out." I was like, and they're like, "You need to go. We need to go now." It's like, "Oh my god, I've taken so long to get to this point, and I can't. I can't get to a save point." So I actually left the PlayStation 1 on all day until I got back home that night just to get to that save point. And I mean, it's not that far, but it's still like, it
Far
was still
enough
like
that it's
another
a
15.
pain.
Yeah, because it was another like 15, 20 minutes before I got to that point. So, like, when I was growing up, my mom and dad could be like, "Oh, just save your game. You could do it again." Blah blah blah. It's like, you don't understand the amount of frustration I've gone through to get to this point.
It's kind of funny. My dad was actually a gamer as well, so he kind of understood that, yeah, you can't just drop it and save it at certain points. My mom
Mhm.
never been a gamer, so she never understood that.
Well, that's it. That's it. I mean, like when I was growing up, it was all the Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis over that way.
Which you couldn't
Which I
really
used to
save
play
on.
in
You
that.
had to use passwords if you wanted to pick up
Well,
your
okay,
progress.
I'll give you a bonus. I'll give you a bonus answer then. The use of passwords to get to your next place. Uh, because I remember playing, I'm looking at my shelf just now with all my games, my Mega Drive games, and like getting to certain points, having to use passwords. And I'm trying to remember which game I've got on my shelf, which has actually still got passwords written on a piece of paper. Oh, what one was it? Oh, I'm so annoyed I can't remember. But this was a time as well where Sonic 3, I don't know if you played Sonic 3 on the Mega
Oh,
Drive or the Genesis.
I did, yes. Actually, Sonic is pretty much the reason I became a gamer. I mean, I had the Super Nintendo and the Genesis at the same time because my
Yeah,
friends, they no longer wanted either system after they got their N64. So my dad actually bought both of them off of my friend's dad, who was also his friend.
yeah.
And I mean, I liked Mario and I liked some of the other games that were available on the Super Nintendo, but the one that I was consistently picking up and playing, 2D Sonic games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sonic 3 having those save save points, well, save points, sorry, the save states, at the start of the game.
Yeah.
That was for my little brain back then. That was amazing because you could literally just go away from your game and then just go back to the exact same point that you were. Whereas, if you stop playing Sonic 1 or Sonic 2, you've basically got to start all the way from the beginning, unless you knew cheat codes to
Yep.
get into the debug mode. So yeah, I mean, that's a bonus answer for you with the likes of that.
Well,
Uh,
the thing is, this particular podcast, we just kind of go, we reminisce and we remember about just various mechanics that are no longer with us, and it's going to be free flowing. So it's not really so much a bonus, it's just us shooting the shit.
so right, well, tell me then, what is a mechanic that you're glad so we know? You said before we started, because obviously with my channel it's pretty much just all JRPGs, but what's interesting for me is that you cover a lot more stuff and games that I don't actually play. So the likes of your fighting games, yes, I've got like Tekken 1 and recently picked up Soul Calibur 6, but you cover like Tekken and you cover King of Fighters, if I remember,
Yeah,
because you've been putting out videos about recent updates of characters, if I'm right in saying.
yeah. Because season 2 just got its final character reveal, which is Hinako.
Yeah,
And yeah, I've been covering that in various forms pretty much since my channel started. Um,
yeah.
so one thing that I'm kind of glad has gone the way of the dodo in a lot of ways is QuickTime events.
Oh, I
I know
see. I thought QuickTime events were still kind of a thing, were they not?
there's still a thing, but they aren't as prevalent as they used to be. The only time I really run across them is if I'm playing cinematic action games that Sony are known for.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. I remember. I remember when Shenmue first got came out, and Shenmue basically brought us QuickTime events, QTEs, and that was something else playing them. And then now they're just in everyday games.
I've
But you're right.
actually got a fun fact for you about Shenmue. Sorry to interrupt. It's
No,
just
that's all right.
with how my brain works, I need to bring this up or I'll forget it. You're familiar with Virtua Fighter, correct?
Yes.
Did you know that the Shenmue game was built off of the Virtua Fighter engine, and that actually incorporated a lot of move sets from Virtua Fighter into it as a result for the combat?
No, I did not. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah,
See,
I thought
it's
that was
the more
pretty
you know.
interesting. I thought that was pretty interesting. I've actually not played the Shenmue games. I do have the remasters of the first two. I have not picked up three yet, but I will eventually just because I'm intrigued by the games, to be honest.
So I'm looking at my shelf just now, and I've got Shenmue. Well, me and my brother have got Shenmue on the Dreamcast, and um, before the retro boom kind of happened, um, we picked up Shenmue for 7.99. Now
That's not bad.
that is exceptional considering like how much it is to buy now second hand is maybe about 30 to at one point before the remasters came out, it was like about 70 to 80 pounds to get a copy of it.
Which is like
Uh,
120 Canadian, by the way, if you're curious.
yeah. And then I often have a look at Entertainment CEX's site and look at retro games and that quite a bit. And likes of Sonic Adventure 2, like I've got that up on my shelf as well. Now I thought Sonic Adventure 2 was one of these quite common games. But that one, again, that's really, really pricey. It's like about 50, 60 quid. Oh,
I
well,
have a
last
theory
yeah,
as to why that is.
why is
I think because, let's face it, Sonic games have always appealed to a younger demographic. And let's face it, back when we were kids, we were probably not as gentle with our games as we should have been.
yeah,
So I imagine that
absolutely.
even though a lot of copies were printed, a lot didn't survive.
well, Well, I mean, there's a. I'm going to throw another thing in about. It's not really a mechanic. It's not really a mechanic which is gone. Um, but it's more of to do with gaming. Cardboard boxes being used for shipping boxes for game boxes. So, um, like the Nintendo 64 had cardboard boxes. The Game Boy had
Cardboard boxes.
cardboard boxes. Now,
The DS
I
even
don't.
did.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it. And it's just like that's another thing I'm really, really glad that we don't have now. I know we're coming to. Sadly, we're coming to an age where things are going to become digital. But
I don't think we're ever going to go fully digital because let's face it, there are nutcases like us out there who collect games. There's always going to be us weirdos who prefer physical medium over, digital.
well,
Also, as a musician, I imagine you probably appreciate actual vinyl records more than most people do.
well, the likes of having physical, yeah. I mean, it's a lot better to have it in my eyes. Having physical, this is how I like to do it. So if I buy a game and I don't like it,
You can sell it.
or I just don't gel with it, I can trade that in. I could take it somewhere and trade it in and get credit and swap it, get a different game for it, right?
Yep.
Um, but with digital,
You
you
don't really
can't
have that.
you can't do that. And the amount of times where like I this is what would stop me from jumping over to digital. I mean, I do have a few digital games, yeah, but I've like really planned to get them. For example, Persona 4 Golden was down at like £7 on
At that point, it just makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. So but I still want to get physical at some point for it, just to have it
Have you
on the
seen
shelf.
the limited run release of Persona?
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing, though. Because I played it on Vita, right?
Yep.
The physical copy I want is the Vita version. I don't want to play it's not I don't want to play it on the Switch, not at all. It's just because I've always played it on the Vita, so that's kind of how I always.
Envision it.
Yeah, well, that's it, and that's where I've got all my memories with it. That's where all my save files are, and it's like, I mean, it's amazing that Persona 4 Golden's finally getting ported to. Well, it's finally got ported to like the PlayStation, Switch, Xbox,
PC
and they're all finally getting physical versions. Because in my head as well, that means the Vita price
is going to
to buy
tank in the very
physical.
near future.
Yeah, it's already gone down in price. So for the longest time, like when COVID hit, because I was on the fence for a while, thinking I'll get it because it was sat about £20 or that, and then COVID hit, and everyone decided in the UK decided that they wanted to become a handheld gamer. Uh, Persona 4 Golden jumped to about £60 to £70. It's dropped down to about £25. So once these physical editions finally come out into circulation with limited run, etc., I'm hoping it knocks the price down a little bit more, and then I can finally take the jump into it.
Understandable. Since we're kind of on the topic of physical stuff, one thing I really miss is physical manuals that were actually really nice and detailed.
Absolutely. Well, right. Because we were talking about limited run just a minute ago. So the last time I properly got a newer game which came with a manual was a limited run game, and it was on PS Vita of all things. Have you heard of a RPG called Cosmic Star Heroine?
I have heard of it, and I would like to try it eventually.
I will have to send you. I will have to send you pictures of it because it has got like how big the cases are for the Vita, right?
Oh yeah, they were tiny. I have a Vita, and I love that thing.
So it's quite a chunky book, like for a Vita case. I'm just seeing if it has how many pages it has. It's a 72-page little book inside of a Vita case. And if you do get the chance to play Cosmic Star Heroine, I'd absolutely you know recommend it because it's a fantastic little indie JRPG.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I think that was actually my first limited run game that I ordered, and it was one of these ones where it's when they started changing their practice from like they only did a limited amount. I think it was like a 300, but this was like an open pre-order, so they just got all the pre-orders, then manufactured them. The other, I'm just looking at my shelf just now. The only other limited run one I've got is Yeast Origin. Again, that's on PS Vita.
Yep. You know, that
Which
is my least favorite East game so far.
Really?
I've played Origins, Salsetta, 8, and 9.
Okay, so you're actually on the same lines as me. Oh, I've got 7 as well. 7's a good one. I unofficially have the other PSP ones on my. I've got 2 PSPs, and one of them's maybe hacked. I don't know. Is that is that legal to say?
Well, if not, my editor can always bleep it out.
Yeah. They see this is another thing, which is again we're starting to see less of it. Is see, this is my tiredness kicking in.
Take a sip of Monster.
Regional, it's regional region locking. That's the one. So with the likes of the Switch having region-free games now, this is a massive thing for me now, which is great because one thing I do not miss is region locking.
That is one thing that I was so grateful for with the PS3 was the fact that it was region free. I actually was in Glasgow in 2012, and I was actually looking at HMV. Do you remember those?
Yep.
Yeah, they used to sell video games at one point, and there was a game that I'd wanted to pick up for the longest time. I sadly didn't, but it would have only cost me £1 if I'd grabbed it that day. And that was Lord of the Rings, The War in the North.
All right, okay. I'm trying to think. I mean, that'll probably still be £1 anyway nowadays.
Sorry?
It'll probably still be £1 anyway.
Nah, it's hard to get, and it's quite expensive for what it is if you do want to get it, because it's been delisted from every single shop.
Has it?
Yeah.
I'm going to have a look now. You've got me interested now. Lord of the Rings, what was it called again?
The War in the North.
Oh, I'm checking now. The War in the North.
Last time I looked, it was like $80 Canadian to grab it, so...
It's £6 for PS3.
Holy shit!
Yeah, PS3, it's £6.
Well,
physical.
I might have to grab it then, because it's delisted on the PS3 shop, it's delisted on PC, and it's delisted on Xbox, so...
Yeah, it's on CEX's website, so £6.
Well, that's a Starbucks run, basically.
The likes of, because I'm talking about the region locking, because with covering JRPGs and that, right? So I'll often get like comments about games which weren't released in my region. So, for example, I put out a video recently about 7 games I wanted to see ported or I need modern ports.
Could you send me a link to that so I can put it in the description and a pinned comment, please? Thank you.
I will do. So there was a comment about saying, "Oh, there's no Xenogears," and that got me thinking. Well, Xenogears is one that I really wish got a PAL release because it didn't get a PAL release, and it's like when you see other JRPG content creators talk about Terranigma, how they say, oh, it didn't release in the North America. That sort of stuff winds me up about having region lock, stuff region locked, etc. And I know that we do get this still, because let's face it, because we're big Legend of Heroes fans, the Trails series,
it takes a while for us to get them.
Yeah. So again, that's more moaning about game development, but with the likes of having no region locking. So, for example, I'm looking at my shelf. So, I Am Setsuna, for example, one of the first releases on the Switch. We didn't get a physical version in PAL region, but I got a physical Japanese Switch version of it. And when you put it in to the Switch, it automatically gives you the English version. It's in English straight away.
That's brilliant.
So that in itself is amazing. That's my only Japanese import I do have. But yeah, because
I have
I
two.
assume it's a
Two
fantastic game.
I have two Japanese imports, and you can tease me for one of them.
Okay.
So one of them is Soul Sacrifice, for the PS Vita,
Uh-huh.
and the other one is Dead or Alive Extreme 3.
Oh, is that the one you think I'm going to tease you about, Dead or Alive?
Yeah,
Oh, wait 1 minute. Is that yeah? Okay, I'm trying to remember. Dead or Alive Extreme 3. Those are the ones with like it's not the volleyball style
that is
ones,
the
is it?
volley. It is the volleyball ones.
I'm not saying anything. Not saying anything.
Nah, go ahead. You
I know.
can.
I'm sure that it's a fantastic game.
I actually
Oh,
play it because it's super relaxing. If I'm stressed out, it's like, okay, I'll either pop on my PS Vita Dead or Alive Paradise, or I'll pop in to the PS5 because it's basically become my de facto PS4 because my PS4 actually sounds like one of those 90s washer machines, with how loud the fan is. It's actually physically vibrating anytime I turn it on.
oh, don't get me started on that. Like, the place, my PlayStation 4 is like a jet engine. I think like everyone's PlayStation 4. Um, that's one of the reasons. Like, I got a PlayStation 5 as well. Like, my PlayStation 5 is essentially a Final Fantasy machine.
Yep,
Um, because Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, etc., and 16. But it's a quieter machine and it plays all my PS4 games. My primary system will be the Switch, and I would like to think that once we know more about the Switch 2 or whatever it will be, I'll probably go down that line if it's backwards compatible.
that's what I'm
Um,
waiting on to see if the Switch's successor is going to be backwards compatible or not, because I want to play Fire Emblem and I want to play the new Pokemon games.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and there's such a massive back catalogue now with the Switch, and you would think that with it being like it is on its way to become one of the best-selling consoles ever.
Yep, I
Um,
believe it's actually in the top 5 as of right now.
yeah, so I mean, it would be daft not to. It was like, it's kind of like going from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, having the backwards compatibility there, and then the
Plus
likes
the
of,
early gen PS3.
yeah, yeah. So, and when
So
you've got,
so Switch is the third best selling console of all time.
well, there you go. I mean, it writes itself, and I would like to think that that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the PS, again, like I know you're big into you're quite big into your Sony,
Yeah,
because you do quite a lot of coverage on it. So I mean, like I like my PS5. Don't get me wrong, but it's not one I go out my way to collect games for.
mm-hmm.
Like most of them have been when it's been like really cheap. So for example,
Soul Calibur 6 when you picked that up.
yeah, I mean that was like well, like £4 or £5, brand new. And when I'm getting other games, so Final Fantasy 16 was the reason I wanted a PS5.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got that. And the likes of I've got other games which again I bought really cheap because our supermarkets in the UK seem to sell off when they need to get rid of their stock. They sell off games like really, really cheap. So like I got the new Far Cry, was it Far Cry 6 for
Yeah.
£5? Still sealed and everything. I haven't opened it up. I got it for £5. It's kind of like, well, it's not really a big loss. And other games that I've got on the shelf, like Star Ocean, The Divine Force, which I need to put more time into because that's actually a pretty decent Star Ocean game. Again, I got that cheap, and Forspoken as well. So
Nice.
here's a thing I don't understand as well. So, compared to yourself over the pond, right?
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of folk talking about the prices of games, etc. Right? So you see all these things in the gaming news about games being £70, well, $70, or I don't know how much that would equate to over you. Like, how much is a brand new game over in Canada?
$89.99 to $99.99, depending on the price the publisher and developers decide on.
Oh, that is mental. That is unbelievable. So, I use a site quite a lot called the Game Collection. It's
I don't know that one. Send that
so
to me, please.
the Game Collection is a site is a game company based down in Wales, right?
Yep.
Now they do their pricing is really good. So I'll compare Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to them, right? So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on Amazon for in the UK, £69.99, right?
Yep.
From Amazon. The Game Collection for pre-ordering that's £54,
Wow, that's
right?
a lot better.
And on top of that, that website gives out a lot of they do like you can earn points, or
Mm-hmm.
like they'll do deals as well. Like if you pre-order from them, like on certain titles, they'll give you £10 credit once your game arrives, so you
That's
can buy
brilliant.
more from this. So it's a really good site that I use.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
hate to cut you off, but we've only got about 3 minutes left of recording time. Do you want to keep the conversation going in a new call, or do you want to kind of wrap it up here?
I can wrap it up, but you can easily cut that bit out if you want.
All right. So we are
What's going to be
running.
best for you, Colin?
Um, I mean, I actually am enjoying the conversation, so I wouldn't mind like if we hopped in another Zoom call and just like kept going on the recording. But I also want to be
Yeah, that's
cognizant
fine. If you
of
want to do that, if you
yeah,
want to do that, that's fine.
I do. Okay,
Right.
so we'll end this one and then we'll hop back in. And the recording is now in progress, so we can get back to it whenever you're ready.
So I'll just carry on from where I was. So I was talking about I was talking about game collection. So yeah, with the game collection, I was getting on to the point where basically, having the region free stuff is something that I really think's beneficial to everyone. Yeah, we'll still get places which are region locked and stuff, but it's just how it is. But the fact we're coming away from that is a good sign for me. But yeah, that's my point with that.
It's definitely a good thing, and that's a great resource to have. So thank you for making me aware of it. I'll put a link to it in the description and in the pinned comment that I alluded to previously.
Perfect. I'll have to remember to send it all.
I will send you a message on Discord to remind you now.
So so yeah, I mean, so I've given you a couple of examples, and you've given me an example of mechanics which you're glad to see the back end of.
Yep.
Um,
I can actually think of another one that I'm glad to see the back end of, mostly.
Go on.
Random encounters.
Yeah, there's a thing with that, a caveat with that. So tell me why, first of all.
This mostly comes down to Pokemon, because when I was a kid, I would have to, worry about battery life because Game Boys 8 batteries, as you probably know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I would get like the low light or low battery light indicator on my Game Boy, then Game Boy Color, and then I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I got to save." And then I'd like take a step, and I mean, Pokemon was good in the fact that you could save anywhere, but sometimes just because you're trying to get desperately to the next area or desperately, you know, advance beyond the random ass Zubat that decided to try and confuse you. Basically,
Yeah.
it was like kicking rocks. Sorry, Geodude.
I mean,
Uh,
like random encounters are all right to a certain degree. You're older, like so. Final Fantasy like 1 and 2 are notorious for their for the rates of encounter.
Also,
But
Final Fantasy VII was pretty notorious for it too.
well, yeah. One thing that is pretty good nowadays is that you get the feature where you can turn off random battles. I mean, I don't do that myself, but I mean, like, so if you're playing like so the classic ones or the pixel remasters. Now, I've not played them personally, but I do know that you can like sort of increase your XP, switch off random encounters, from my knowledge as well, because I know with the Final Fantasy VII and port that you can actually like turn off random encounters.
That's great.
Uh, so I mean, there is that sort of benefit to it nowadays. I can totally agree with you when it comes to the sort of the original Pokemons, especially like the Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow, because I started off with Red and man oh man, it's like the second your trainer touched grass, oh my god, you'd be hammered by like the weakest of the weak.
It's
And then
like
when you
Nintendo was trying to tell us to not touch grass.
it's it was just so annoying, like especially if you were like trying to get 150 Pokemon, the original 150.
Yep. Or
Um,
151 once Mew became a thing.
yeah, well, there's that as well. And it was just a case of no, what wound me up even more with that is that when you'd finally get find the one that you're after, and you do an attack, and it would just
Kill it.
kill it, and
Yep.
you'd be
Fuck.
like, oh no, and then you have
Yep.
to rinse and repeat.
Yep.
Man, I'm so happy I don't have to deal with that. I mean, the last Pokemon game I actually played was Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Nice.
Um,
The last one
I
I played
actually,
was Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and that was a bad game to get back into Pokemon into. And it's not for the fact that they just had introduced so many things since Generation 3. It was just the fact that, you know how Pokemon games used to really just let you go loose for the most part?
yeah,
They are so handholdy now.
yeah. I mean, I picked up Pokemon Sword a good while back. I haven't got the newer ones because they look like a buggy mess. Pokemon Sword was all right, but yeah, it's very much hit A and win sort of thing.
Yep.
I never really struggled with that. The thing I liked about Pokemon Legends Arceus, it was how I imagined Pokemon when I was growing up,
Yep.
having that sort of free roam in these open zones. That year it came out was actually in my top 5 games I played of that year. I really enjoyed it, and I know that was to do with what Pokemon generation was it? Not Ruby. Was it Ruby and Sapphire? I don't know.
Or,
They had the little cheat Diamond and Pearl. That's the ones.
yep.
So like my history with Pokemon is that I played Red and Yellow, and then I kind of dropped off the face of the earth with Pokemon. Um, and then like it was only because it was really cheap. Again, another supermarket one managed to get Pokemon Sword really cheap, and I thought it was a nice, easy play. And then I saw like all the Pokemon Legends Arceus ones, so I do have Sun and Pokemon Sun. I got that as a Father's Day gift. In the UK, we've got a place called Argos. Now, Argos were like getting rid of all their Nintendo 3DS games for like pretty much hee haw.
Yep.
So like I came away with uh, Bravely Second, End Layer for like £3. Uh, Yokai Watch 1 and 2.
I've always wanted to
Dylan,
play the Bravely games, but I've never had the opportunity.
if you get the chance, Bravely Default 2 is awesome on the Switch. Absolutely love that game. Um, so I'd highly recommend playing that if you do get a chance to it. Bravely Default on the 3DS, I need to play a bit more of, but it is really good. The 3DS, funnily enough, it's one that I need to play a bit more of because I didn't really fully get into the Nintendo 3DS until I got a Switch. Um,
I
so
managed to
yeah,
pick up a 2DS for pennies a couple Christmases ago.
well, and now I can imagine like you'd actually be able to make money off of that now because obviously with the stores closing, etc. Folk are
Yep.
looking for these for physicals. So yeah, but when it's always great when you get something like I mentioned earlier on about Shenmue getting it really cheap and then the prices go like sky high. It's unbelievable. Um,
Getting
So, for
back to that,
example,
Falcom actually, their games always go sky high. Have you noticed that?
absolutely. So, um, what I did when during the PS Vita time when I was always playing that, I used to go onto CEX's website. Now, I learned a trick that they sometimes get new games on the day of release. So I got on there Tokyo Xanadu and Ys 8 Lacrimosa Dana, brand new off of there for like £40. And then they went skyrocketed for those. They've gone down in price since, but still, it's like Trails of Cold Steel 2 on the Vita. I'm going to, whilst I'm talking, right? Cold Steel 2, from my last checking, was really expensive for the Vita over here. 2 seconds. It currently, if you want it on Vita, it's gone down in price. It's £58
I mean,
for a
that's at
second
least a
hand.
reasonable price.
Well, when I got it, it was a lot cheaper than that. Put it that way.
Same here. I
um,
got it for 29 Canadian.
oh, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, on the Switch, no Switch, sorry, Ys Lacrimosa of Dana, £75 on the Vita.
Oh,
Um,
that's a tough one.
yeah, considering it's on the Switch and everywhere else, the Switch is £25, and that's probably like a PS4 version's £10. You know?
I double dipped on Lacrimosa of Donna because I had the PS4 version digitally, because when the time came around for me to just like buy Ys 8 when I wanted to play it, which was just before the release of Cold Steel 3, because I
Yeah,
was like, I need a Falcom fix. It happened to be on sale on the PlayStation Store at the time. I paid 29 Canadian, so, you know, not insignificant price for a digital game, but decent enough that it was palatable. When I was looking at the PS4 version, just the standard edition, that was $200. You can
yeah,
see why I was like, fuck this, I'm just going digital on this one.
yeah. No, that
Well,
can poke it.
when NIS America re-released the PS5 version, I was like, well, I need to buy my best friend something for his birthday. Oh, they have the re-release of the PS4 version. Cool. I'm buying this, and I'm buying the PS5 version for myself. I'll just have it shipped to his house.
Good plan. Good plan. I mean, it's mental how some of the prices can go up. I'm looking at like my PSP games as well. I remember Star Ocean Second Evolution. Now we are getting the remake of Star Ocean Second Story.
Yep.
So this was a PSP game which was quite expensive for a good while on PSP secondhand, but now let's see, Second Evolution. So it's still £25. When I bought it, it was like it went down to £20, but that was one which was always hovering over like 35, £40.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always when it's an RPG or a JRPG on these handhelds, that's when the prices skyrocket. So yeah,
You
that's
know
one
what you
thing.
should really do as a sub-series on your channel? You
But
should do a JRPG market watch and take a look at all of these games and just do a video once a month about where they are sitting price-wise and ones that you're really eyeing up.
yeah, I mean, I could do that. It's a good
It
idea,
it would
actually.
be it would be immense value for a lot of JRPG gamers out there, let's face it.
Yeah, the only problem I would have doing that is the prices. Like they can just go wibble wobble, all wibble wobble. Why did I say that?
You're
It
a
can go up.
Doctor Who fan, probably.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it'll be an interesting something to think about and take away. That's a brilliant idea.
I mean, like,
Um,
just like I said, do it once a month, do it at the end of the month, beginning of the month kind of area.
mhm. Yeah, I mean that's something I could do. But yeah, I mean the prices are just mental when it comes to some of these secondhand stuff. It's always one of these. It's always a tough situation that you need to kind of think, can I hold it off? Because I mean, like, sort of, I want to get Star Ocean Second Story are for the Switch at some point. I
I'm
would like.
so I'm so lucky that my editor game shares with me. So once that releases, I actually have access to all of the PS4 releases of Star Ocean games. So,
Oh, nice.
and I've never played a Star Ocean game yet.
Well, I'll do you the favor of telling you don't need to bother with Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness.
Funny you should mention that. For the JRPG Rage video, which will be up tomorrow, hopefully at the time of recording, had a little stumble in the editing process,
Uh,
uh, which you have appeared in. I'm going to spoil what Phyto Gaming had picked for his. He picked
oh,
Integrity and Faithlessness.
well, funnily enough, I've got a video coming out at some point. One of my remembering videos where I just basically remember about a video game and I just do it in a one shot, one style format. Uh, it's about Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness. And put it this way, Luca from Fieto Gaming, he pops up in it.
Nice.
uh,
Nice.
so that'll be an interesting one because generally when it comes to like my channel stuff, I try and stay positive on the course. But I thought I'll try something different. It's an all right game, but it's the
It has
worst in the
issues.
series. Um, Star Ocean's second story or second evolution, dependent on the one that you play. I mean, that is the best one out of all of them. Divine Force, the newest one. Again, I haven't completed it. I'm still working through it, but it's a decent one. Again, it's one of these ones which really should have had a Switch port.
Mm-hmm.
And it because you think, for me, JRPGs are well and truly suited to the Nintendo Switch.
I totally understand what you mean because there's just something more enjoyable about playing a JRPG on the handheld.
Yeah, and I mean, it's certainly for me anyway. That's my preferred way of playing. So yeah, I mean, the Star Ocean games. Once you get, it'd be interesting to hear what your thoughts are once you do actually play it.
Which one do you think I
Um,
should start with? Because I do have access to all of the ones that have released on PS4.
on PS4, I mean, Star Ocean: The Divine Force is the latest one. If your editor is getting Star Ocean's second story arc,
He already
which
has it pre-ordered, so
so yeah, that one is the fan favorite, and it is probably the best one, and it's the 2D HD style games.
I love
So
those.
yeah, so I mean that's probably going to be those two. I would probably recommend to you first.
All
Um,
right.
First Departure is a good game as well, which is the first one. So it's whether or not they decide that they're going to go redo the first game. It'll be interesting to see how Star Ocean goes from here, because with Divine Force, that was kind of like there was a lot riding on Divine Force.
Yeah. You
Um,
can definitely tell that it had some budget behind it, even if the character models looked a little odd sometimes.
yeah, but this is why I kind of thought it was a bit of a bizarre thing not to have it on Switch, because again, you would have. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know how hard it is to get these sort of games. But when you're getting PS4 games come to the Switch, and you're using the age old. Well, you can have if you've got The Witcher on Switch, then you can pretty much get any PS4 game on there. I mean, Nier Automata, for example, that is an utterly fantastic port onto the Nintendo
Here's
Switch.
something you might find interesting about The Witcher 3 Switch port. CD Projekt Red noted that getting it to even run was a major ball ache in and of itself.
I can imagine. You know what? I used to have Witcher 3 for the PS4, and I could just never get fully into it. Picked up the Switch version, and I've completed it. It's not gone back to it, but it's a fantastic RPG.
I actually completed it during the early months of the pandemic because I literally had fuck all to do.
You see, that's the I was playing. I think I was still playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 at the time.
Basically, basically I just marathoned the Witcher TV series with my mom, and I was like, okay, I like the lore. I'm gonna check out the game. Loved the
Yeah,
game and marathoned it, but it and Ghost of Tsushima back to back, like I did, it burnt me out on open world adventure titles for the longest time.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I can understand open world fatigue. Like I've just been, well, I completed Harvestella. Recently, you'll seen the review pop up for it. So
I
I've
have
jumped.
yet to watch your review because it's so new and I was off doing sleep yesterday.
That's fine, but like so I've moved on to Paper Mario, the Origami King,
Oh, nice.
because I
You're gonna
wanted.
have to tell me how that is when you get into it.
Yeah, well, I've been playing it for maybe up at about 7 to 10 hours, I think. I'm not too sure, but I'm really enjoying it. A lot of folk complain about the combat in it, which I can kind of see that with the repetition, but I think it's really well written. I think it's really funny. But I needed a change of pace from my normal standard JRPGs because I was going to go on to Atelier Sophie 2, the Koei Tecmo game. Um, but I decided just to go. Paper Mario has been on my backlog for ages. And then I realized you can turn off motion controls because I hate motion controls with a
Oh,
passion.
that's something we can discuss about mechanics we're glad have died off.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Nice segue.
Because
So,
what they were the rage during the PS3, Xbox 360, and Switch days. Or not
and
Switch,
then,
Wii days, I meant to say.
yeah. So, yeah, the likes of they were all sort of a fad. Motion controls, yeah, they were okay for likes of a muck about with the likes of your Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Um,
Little
but
digestible titles that you can just throw away when you're bored of them.
like I could not see myself sitting down and playing like a full on like I've got Twilight Princess, right?
Yep.
But like I don't remember anything from that because I probably tried to block out my memory because of all the motion controls. Now, the motion controls on the Switch, I have never used. Like, I've not seen anyone really talk about motion controls with the Switch. So you get likes of they had the new sports Nintendo Sports on Switch come out recently. I don't hear anyone really talking about that. 1-2-3 Switch or 1-2 Switch or whatever it's called. I
Mm-hmm.
mean that got a sequel, but like folk were selling it brand new for like 12 quid just to get it off their shelves because no one was buying it. And I really couldn't imagine playing a lot of games on handheld. Well, I'm getting all tongue tied. You can tell how tired I am now.
Basically, every time you get tongue tied, just swig some monster, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you with the motion controls. I'm just so glad it's gone. Well, I say gone. It's not as popular as it was because I mean, even the Kinect, like that, they're a massive pain in the hoop to even work. Um, so yeah, it's one that I'm not really bothered about anymore. I'm glad it's not really a thing anymore. And I know there'll be some people who love the motion controls, which is absolutely fine. Not saying that I didn't have a good time with the likes of Wii Sports or anything. You always have fun with Wii Sports, but again, it has its lifespan and that it's come and gone
Yeah.
realistically.
And I would say that realistically, it's fun for a week, and then you got to take a long break from it because it becomes so tiresome.
Yeah, I remember when the Wii got released and folk were smashing their TVs because they kept on forgetting to put the wrist lock on,
Yep.
and then chucking the remote, the nunchucks or whatever, and it going through the TV screens.
I
Absolutely hilarious.
I had the PlayStation Move, and here's the funny thing: I've always been a small-wristed dude because I'm skinny, and
Mhm.
the wrist straps never fit me correctly because of how bloody small my wrist was.
Oh man! Hopefully you didn't break any TVs at the time.
No, but I did one day smack the cat that we had at the time with one of the motion controllers because it went flying out of my hand.
Yeah, I bet your cat was happy for that. God.
He actually cuddled up to the controller for 20 minutes after the fact, so take from that what you will.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm total agreement with you with this one. So far then, with the mechanics, we basically said, so I've given you save points. We've got the motion control. What was the other one?
Uh, Random encounters.
Random encounters. So we've got three. We've got three, and I think that's a fantastic for a first try
Yep,
of
and
this.
I can think of another one.
Oh, go on.
That would be delay-based netcode in fighting games.
I'm gonna like nod and say I understand this, but I don't. So you're gonna have to explain to me what netcode is.
Okay, so netcode is basically when you go online with the game.
Right.
So delay-based netcode basically takes the ping from you, the ping from your opponent, and it literally bakes in a delay for the game based off the distance between your ping and their ping.
Right. Okay.
And so that can be anywhere from milliseconds, where you don't even notice the delay. That would be if you're in the same time zone. And then it can go as high as 12 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So basically, that would be like if me and you were to boot up Soul Calibur, we would probably have a delay of about 1 to 2 seconds. So it would be noticeable but playable.
Yeah.
But if we were to play someone in Japan, for example, it just wouldn't be playable at all.
Ah, right. Okay. See, that's a thing with me who just mainly sticks with single player games. I had no idea that was a thing. Utterly no idea.
It's
So yeah, I
actually
can
really
understand that.
it's really interesting to see how various different developers have actually corrected this because Virtua Fighter 5 that was released on PlayStation 4 as a free game for a little while.
Yeah.
What they did is Sega bought up a whole bunch of servers around the world. So they had a very expensive solution for the problem. It still
Yeah.
uses delay-based netcode, but basically what it does is it takes the ping from you, takes the ping from your opponent, and then finds a server that's kind of a midway point between you two. And then that's called absorption netcode. And basically the server absorbs all of the delay so that it feels like a seamless experience between the two of you.
Yeah, it does sound like a massive ball ache if it's not working correctly.
Oh, it definitely is a massive ball ache if it's not working correctly.
Yeah,
Also,
that and
the
you
thing is, if they ever like just stop paying for a server, you can get royally fucked.
go. Fucking hell, fuck that.
But it's really funny that an American from some university made something called rollback netcode, and it's been around for a decade plus. Skullgirls is actually a game that uses rollback netcode, one of the first examples I've been able to find. And basically, what it does is I don't know how it works. It's too technical for my brain. Let's put it that way. But basically, it uses delay frames. So, like, it kind of like goes, okay, this is what your last input was. We're going to try to figure out what move you did based off of that. And sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. But it's the best solution we've got right now. And Japanese developers were super slow to adopt rollback netcode because Japan has this not made here mentality. If it's not developed in Japan, they have no real interest in it.
Oh, okay. I never knew that.
Yeah, so basically, they could have had the infrastructure for rollback netcode for decades at this point almost, and they just did not adopt it because it was made by an American. So now Japanese fighting game developers are playing catch up to it because they just never developed the infrastructure to learn how delay based netcode works and how to program it.
So there you go. You learn something new every day because I had utterly no clue. And I've heard it in videos before, folk talking about rollback netcode and stuff like that, but I've never actually understood it. So yeah, this has kind of been a learning experience for me as well.
Well, I tried to be as lay as possible because even I have a hard time understanding it, and I'm a fighting game content creator.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in.
Tekken 8 is actually an example of a 3D fighting game that is going to be using rollback netcode.
Oh, nice one.
Because
See,
here's the thing, it's mostly been 2D fighting games that have used rollback to this point in time.
yeah,
Because let's face it, you're fighting on a 2D plane, so it's much simpler. With
yeah.
3D, you've got to encode. Yeah, I'm now tongue tied.
Yeah,
basically,
no,
basically, it's got to figure out if you did a sidestep or not, that sort of stuff.
yeah. So in essence, then, 2D easy, 3D bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um, Colin, just a quick thing. I'm getting a thing coming up on my screen saying running out of time.
Yeah, it's fine. I have only a couple more discussion points and then we can wrap up.
Okay, that's fine.
So, you said earlier in the discussion that you tend to focus on positivity on your channel. Was there any reason why you decided to make positivity your particular style?
Um, kind of, yeah. The reason for it is it's mainly for I really can't be arsed dealing with shite comments. Like if I'm negative about stuff, like at the end of the day, like the stuff I do on YouTube is a bit of fun for me, and it's it's something I'm able to do for fun. I don't want it to be. I want it my kind of outlook on games to shine. Whereas if I'm shitting on a game, then it's you know I don't really like doing that. Even if I don't like a game. So for example, I mentioned before Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness. I've not gone and flat out said it's fucking shit or anything like that. I've explained my thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, what I might think's not great, someone else might think it's awesome. So that's kind of I stay positive with the videos because one, I can't be arsed dealing uh, with aggressive comments, and two, it's just how I am. Like I don't feel I need to be negative with my videos. Not saying that discussing, having discussions and being negative about stuff. That's always like when we're talking just now. That's having a conversation between two pals.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just the way I like to do my videos, I just like to keep positive with it. If you understand, and
Yes, I do.
if folk want to, because I know for um because you, for example, with your videos as well, like you do a lot of reporting on, like for example, you have a lot of your own thoughts that you want to get out there, which is really good to see that, like I don't think like some people do, and it's always good to see what other folks' thoughts on things are.
Yeah, you
To
probably
contribute.
see my journalism background coming through in some of my videos.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's what everyone wants to do. Everyone does their own sort of style of videos. So it's just how I've always done it, really.
Hmm.
You know?
Also, you've probably noticed that I am mostly positive in my videos, but then I've got some
Absolutely.
videos where I'm just like, nope, fuck it. I'm being an aggressive asshole for this one.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember one. I know. What was the one? I'm trying to remember one because I don't think you've been a big fan of Jim Ryan, if I remember.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm not a super big fan of Jim Ryan. That was actually a
So
recent video where I covered my thoughts on that.
yeah. So again, it's your thoughts with it. It's when if it's done constructively, then
Mm-hmm.
it's fine. It's good. It's when folk come on and just say this game's fucking shit, and then never actually explain why.
Yep.
It's be constructive. with the negativity, just so yeah. To answer your question, it's to save me time as well, and just how I do my videos, really.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, one of the reasons I was drawn to your videos was because of that positivity, because there really aren't enough YouTubers who have a positive mindset.
Oh, thank you for that. It's a weird thing. Like, so I've done collaborations with folk, yourself, other channels, and one thing I do sometimes get on my like feedback from them, or saying, "Oh, you've got really positive energy," or I can feel your energy with this. It's like, I don't feel I'm like throwing heaps of positive energy. I'm just doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's always good. It's always good to hear that. So there's no point here. What's the age old phrase? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
yeah.
So, so that's why I do it, because at the end of the day, someone like yourself will take, because my videos might be about 7-8 minutes long, right? So, someone's taking their time out of their day to watch my
Content.
video content, yeah, and I want it to be a positive thing that they come away with,
Yep.
or I'll have a laugh about it, because it's just how I do the videos.
Mm-hmm. So we have about 4.5 minutes left. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap things up? I hear that your band has a new single coming out.
Yeah, so on the 2nd of November, so tomorrow, they will have a new song called Rewritten coming out. The band's called the Julian Year, which I do the vocals for. There will be a link when it comes out. I'll get it sent to you so you could pop it on your video.
Definitely. Also, do you mind sending me the actual song so that as we kind of like end the video, I can like play a little bit of the intro for it?
Yeah, absolutely. And just keep an eye on my channel. There's always stuff coming up, and we've got another collaboration coming up at the end of the month of November, which you will see calling in as well.
What is that particular topic for my audience so that they can get excited?
So it is going to be essential Nintendo games that you should play. So it's Nintendo games from any generation, any genre. As long as it's been on a Nintendo system, it's fair game.
Perfect. Thank you for coming on, Chicken Fillets. I hope that we can do more podcast episodes soon, because you are an absolute joy to talk to. So much so that we almost had to do this as a 3-part podcast.
Well, it's up to you. Perfect. Well, thank you once again, Colin, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yes, definitely. So, guys, this has been the first podcast for mechanics and games that we're glad are no longer with us or are very limited. So some of my previous podcasts will be popping up on screen now. Why not check them out? And until next time, keep blazing that trail.